Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to SolidWorks Process and Plan webinar. My name is Pradeep. I'm a technical manager for Beacon North, based out of Delhi. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining the webinar. It's going to be a very interesting session for those of you who are into process and plan design. Today, we'll see how SolidWorks can address this particular segment of the market. I'm not a big PowerPoint guy. For those of you who have been following the webinars, you should be fairly aware that I usually skip the PowerPoints and jump right into the SolidWorks demo or presentation part of it. So what I wanted to do today is, just take you through real quick through the CBIs or the challenges that the process and plant industry currently faces, and let's see how SolidWorks addresses these particular issues. If you have any questions, you can just type in on the chat screen. Our technical support executives will make sure that you're logged in and your voice and your audio is clean. So let's start off. I think we are right on time. What I have here today is let's say a PowerPoint presentation for 5 minutes, not more than that, and a SolidWorks hands-on for let's say 30-40 minutes, and then we should open up for Q&A. So the typical challenges in the process and plant industry today can be categorized into these major categories. Increasing demands for energy, the capital costs or the opportunity cost. Of course, the design cycles and the timelines are very important. And also, wherever possible, we try to optimize all this engineering services. Some of the example challenges in the process and plant industry, these are straight from our customers. Most of them are based on, or they revolve around the timelines. Some because as a project manager or as an engineer, you have strict timelines to meet, and customers are really eager to know the right time for the project. So the first of the challenges that process and plant industry today currently faces is the demands for energy keep on increasing by the day. So the same plants should deliver more and more energy by making the processes and plants more and more energy efficient. One of the testimonial from Eastern Power, one of our key customers. What SolidWorks offers is integrated solution with design, piping, structural, simulation, and documentation capabilities. So your designs are faster, your design cycles are shorter. One more important area or the challenge which the market faces today is that to bring your designs faster to the market, to ability to quote very quickly, all these things. FL Smith & Co., one of our cement plant customers, they have experienced immediate increase in productivity when they use SolidWorks as much as by 30%, which is quite a bit. And also keeping the costs in check to a minimum. This is one of the very important challenge. One of our other customers, Infilco, who are into water treatment, by using SolidWorks Premium, they can leverage all the previous design experience. It can be in 2D, it can be in any other software for the future projects. So we'll see all of these, how they come together in SolidWorks. We just don't look at ourselves as a 3D CAD solution. We are much bigger than that. We are a complete. We have a complete suite of products which will address every stage of your design lifecycle. We have tools to design. We have solutions for design validation, technical documentation, and all of them are tied together by product data management solution. So let's jump into SolidWorks. We have a very interesting um, presentation today, an interesting project at hand today. Some of the key customers in the process plant. We have more than 12,000 seats of SolidWorks in 1,800 companies in process plant industry. So let's jump right into SolidWorks. So what I have here today is a natural gas power plant. It is quite a detailed design. Um, so some of the areas I want to point out is a water storage system, a cooling unit. There's a demineralized water storage tank here, and the actual plant itself. You can see the property has a nice layout and some of the walkways. So all of this can be done in a very quick time. So what we'll do today is we'll start from a 2D layout, and then we'll keep on incorporating these designs. So you can see that it's actually quite a detailed design. And we'll see how SolidWorks piping can actually tie these processes up with the help of automatic options like routing and piping. So before we jump into the demo, I wanted to show you one beautiful video which basically is a walkthrough. So using SolidWorks, we can actually create something like this. We can create a whole layout. So that's what I'm going to do today. What I'll do is I'll start from a 2D drawing, let's say from a customer, and then I'll start building all this process and plans into it. And at the end, we will even create a nice walkthrough video out of it. So let me close this off. We don't need this for now. Yeah, one more video I wanted to show you is one of our customers has uploaded a video on YouTube. I mean, on YouTube you can find several such videos of complete plant designs or processes done in SolidWorks, and then you can render it beautifully and create a nice walkthrough video of your customer presentations. So you can see that it's quite detailed. SolidWorks piping offers unparalleled ease when it comes to your design. So we have all sorts of component, sheet metal, structural, weldments, etc., etc. And SolidWorks offers excellent large assembly capabilities if you're dealing with huge assemblies. We have several options like a large design review, large assembly mode, etc., etc. So we'll look into all of these in the next 30-40 minutes. Well, let me get out of the video right now. And as I said, now we'll start with something very basic. We'll start with a 2D drawing, let's assume given by a customer, and we'll start building the plant layout from it and incorporate all the processes like water storage system, demineralized storage, and then the cooling unit, and then the full plant itself. So SolidWorks, when it comes to process and plant, you often have to deal with 2D data, and SolidWorks offers excellent tools. Here I have DraftSite, which is a professional grade 2D software from Dassault Systems. Using which you can easily edit, view, or modify your existing designs. It can be 2D legacy data from your previous CAD system or from one of your customers or even your suppliers or vendors. So what I have here is I can open up DXF DWG files. So let me select the plant layout, which is a DWG drawing. So this is the layout of the same assembly that we saw earlier. So what I'll do today is I'll bring in this layout into SolidWorks, and then I'll start building the natural gas power plant. So we have different areas here, as I pointed out in the SolidWorks. Here is the water storage system. This is the cooling unit. Here we have a demineralized storage tank, and this is the actual plant itself. So what I want to do now is modify or let's say incorporate a design change which has come up in the last minutes. Let's say someone has asked us to include a transfer skid here. We can easily incorporate those design changes using the draft site. So here I'm trying to bring in a block, a 2D block. So as soon as I bring in, I can place it at a appropriate location. This should be fair enough. And this interface should look very similar to you. You have the command line interface, and you can use most popular commands that you use in your 2D softwares like move, modify, dimension, draw, etc., etc. So let me rotate this by, let's say, a negative 90 degrees so that I have it, and let me move it. I want it to be placed approximately around about here. You can see that I'm trying to avoid the staircase so that later when we create the pipes, we have no interferences. So we have incorporated the design change, and let me save this file. Let me give it a new name. There you go. And what we have here is we have access to all the layers. We have different layers here. What I can do is I can get rid of the unnecessary layers. I can freeze or thaw them, or I can even hide them. So I have just simplified the design by a great deal. I don't need all the details here. Primarily, I have all the block information with the center lines, so that when I go and place my components, I can easily refer them and locate them in my SolidWorks assemblies. So again, let's quickly save this. And in SolidWorks, let's try to open up the same drawing that we have just modified. SolidWorks is known for its interoperability or compatibility with different CAD systems. You can open up all the neutral file formats, Parasolid, IGS, STP, STL, and then we have specific CAD formats, like we can directly open up Pro-E parts and assemblies, Unigraphics, Inventor, Solid Edge, and of course SolidWorks files and DXF and DWG 2D drawings. So this is the drawing that we have just modified. So let me bring it into SolidWorks. And when I do, SolidWorks automatically detects that this is a DWG drawing, and it is giving us a couple of options. One is you can convert this into a native SolidWorks drawing, or you can start using this 2D drawing to build your SolidWorks parts or assemblies. So let's go with the second option. And in the next screen, you can see we have control over the unit system, and again, you have control over the layers here. You can get rid of any unnecessary layers. But since we have done that already using draft site, let me go ahead and bring in all the layers. SolidWorks has detected that there is block information inside this DWG drawing, so it's asking us if we want to get rid of it. Let's retain all that block information by clicking No. And you can see SolidWorks has easily brought in all this information. If we expand this sketch on the feature manager on the left, we can see that we have various block information, block attributes, including the transfer skid block that we have just brought in. So let me get out of the sketch, and let me put it on the top plane for visual comfort, so that it looks much cleaner and nicer. So let's start building SolidWorks models. First, what I want to do is I want to develop a property layout. Since we have a property boundary, a fencing, and a walkway, I can easily use SolidWorks native tools to build this. So what I want to do is give a 3 meter. I can even give an offset. There you go. Let's bring the sketch back. And what I want to do next is give the um, fencing. So here we have the fencing. Let's make it a thin feature in SolidWorks, and again give it a thickness. We can even control the direction. There you go. And finally, you can see that we have a walkway here. So let me again use the sketch to remove some material out of it. So we are basically developed a nice layout using which we can bring in all our SolidWorks assemblies, components, etc. So before that, what I want to do is give it a nice appearance. SolidWorks has got many appearances and textures that you can apply. So let me bring in something here. And to clearly distinguish this walkway from the rest of the property, let me bring in one of the paving textures. There you go, and we can quickly save this. Let me just use an existing document and rewrite over it, and we can start building our assembly from this. Let me again quickly save it. So we can turn on off the sketch whenever we need it. For now, let me retain it because I want to bring in the pieces of this plant, like the main plant itself. Let's start with the main building. Let me place it here for now. And if once I change the transparency, you can see that this is quite a detailed design. This sort of design can be easily done in SolidWorks weldments, and some of the enclosures can be done in SolidWorks sheet metal. And we have partner products as well, which help you in making something like this. And to locate it, it's real easy. I'll be using the origins and the reference geometry from the 2D layout that we have used. You can see that the graphics are slightly distorted at the base, but don't worry about it. We're going to fix it in another couple of minutes. The next item I want to bring in is a cooling unit. In SolidWorks, you can use or you can reduce the complexity of your designs by saving it as a single part or a single body. Again, mating it or locating it is real easy in SolidWorks. And finally, I want to bring in a a water storage system. Sometimes a plant can contain another plant by itself. So here we have a assembly of components, which is basically which has got a lot of processes by in itself. So it will take a little bit of time to bring this in. It's not as easy as the other two components. As you can see, SolidWorks is trying to open up all these components and bring them in. And here it is. You can see that this is quite a detailed design. It has got a lot of piping in itself. And let's just locate it. Locating this can be a little bit tricky, trickier than the earlier instances, but let's still go ahead and locate it accurately. I'm going to use the reference planes from the assembly that we have just brought in and the references from my 2D layout. So we have got a decent property here, which has got main building, cooling unit, and water storage system. But you notice the graphics are a little bit goofy in the sense that we have distorted graphics in the main building area, and most of our units are digging right through the property. So we need to do a little bit of modification here. And SolidWorks offers you tools to isolate the components which you are interested in. So let me get rid of the other three um, units and focus on the property for now. So what I want to do is edit this property, create a sketch by using the references from the 2D layout again. We can convert these entities by just picking them very easily. And finally, the water storage system. And we can get rid of any material, sorry, any sketch entities that we don't need. So what we did was just get rid of some material so that our units and the storage systems are not digging right through the property. You can turn off the sketch, exit, isolate. Now you can see that it's a lot cleaner. We can clearly see the elements and no distorted graphics anymore. So I think we're all set. We talked about demineralized storage tank being placed here. So in SolidWorks, we can customize. This is a simple tank, which is a solid part. Let me save it as a different part and then bring it in. So customizing this can be easily done using SolidWorks features and capabilities like Instant 3D, using which I can easily resize them. But what I want here is what I have in mind is a very specific size, 6-meter height and 12-meter in diameter. And you can see that we have a layout or a reference sketch here, using which I'm going to add some intelligent features, SolidWorks intelligent features like flanges. And SolidWorks always emphasizes on design reuse. So any feature or any particular component or a design that you keep on using very often, you can easily save them in your design libraries, and then you can just use them on the fly by just dragging and dropping them from the design library onto your graphical interface. What I'm going to do here is just dig into my design library. In features, I have one of the ASME B16.5 flanges, and you can notice that as soon as I drag and drop it, I can pick the right size. It comes in a variety of sizes. So that's one more benefit of using design libraries. You can publish one single component in different sizes. So whenever you need it, you can just change the dimensions on the fly. So let me pick a 8-inch 150-pound flange, and SolidWorks is asking me to provide references for this. So the visual feedback from SolidWorks helps me in locating it accurately. So I know what I am going to do here. It's asking me to point out the sketch or locate the sketch, and finally the face. So as soon as I click, we have a nice flange here, which is ready and ready to use. And once I change the dimensions, you can see that it's dynamically rebuilding itself. Let's leave it at 8-inch, and let's move on to the next part. I want a 4-inch flange here. And one more flange, 4-inch at this point. And finally, let's put a vent on the top. Let's make it a little bit smaller, 2.5-inch. And finally, let me pick the biggest size that I have here, 24 as a manhole cover here. Oops. So we are almost done. We can turn off the sketch and bring this into our SolidWorks assembly. It's as simple as a drag and drop, and locating it can be done in the similar fashion that we did earlier. Just pick the origin, pick the reference point on your 2D layout, and align the axis so that it stays put. Let me turn off the sketches. Now let's focus on one more area of our design. In the water storage unit, we have option for a skid here, a motor pump skid. So let me bring on that skid. And sometimes in SolidWorks, we can really simplify things using configurations and speed packs. So what I'm going to do is bring in this water pump skid. You can see that it has got a lot of components. It's quite a detailed design. This is a water pump skid. You can see there are a lot of internal detail here. We might not need all this detail, especially when it comes to a layout at a full plant level assembly. Due to a couple of reasons. One is you might want to reduce the overhead on your memory resources, and two, you might not want to see all these lines in your drawing. So what you want to do is you want to simplify things, and SolidWorks offers just the right tools like configurations. What I'm going to do is create a simplified version of the same, and quickly suppress or remove some of the components. What this does is it completely unloads all these components from the memory. We can go one step ahead and even simplify it further by modifying the pump skid part component. What I'm going to do is I want to add a configuration. Let's name it simplified as well. SolidWorks is asking me to link the display states to the materials. Let me say no. We'll quickly edit the part. What I want to do is create a sketch on the right plane and later extrude it so that it consumes the whole internal detail. Again, we're gonna use convert entities. I can just simply pick the face and maybe this edge, and you can see that SolidWorks has created a nice sketch on the right plane. You can get rid of the unnecessary sketch entities. Finally, finish off the sketch. There you go, and extrude it up to the surface, actually in both directions. And we can merge all these bodies together. So you can see we have a much simplified version of the same assembly that we saw earlier, with all the detail suppressed or removed from the memory. But have we lost all the detail? Absolutely not. We can just toggle back to the configuration and we have all the information here from our earlier assembly. So SolidWorks configurations provides you an excellent way of simplifying things or having alternate configurations, or without having to duplicate this, without having to have another document altogether. So it's a simple toggle between configurations, and we will again bring this in. What I want to do is again locate it onto the slab. To make it easier, again I'm going to isolate some of the components. Let me just retain the water pump skid and water storage side. Rest of the components will be removed so that you can work easily. we want the flanges to be facing outward, so let me just place it approximately, and then I'm going to use some of the SolidWorks mates. Like we have advanced mates like symmetry mate and width mate, which can locate this even though we don't know the dimensions. We can just use the width mate here to locate it exactly in the middle of the slab. There you go, the first width mate is in place, and let's start with the second width mate. All you have to do is give a couple of width selections and a couple of tab selections. And we have our water pump skid placed perfectly. We can exit the isolate. And finally, what we are going to do now is focus on the transfer skid area, which was a design change which we incorporated using our 2D layout. So for this, I'm going to bring in a transfer skid. But before that, let me isolate the layout and turn on the sketch so that we know where it has to be placed. It will be coming right at the demineralized storage tank, and after that we'll tie up all these processes using SolidWorks piping. So let me bring in the transfer skid. SolidWorks is an excellent tool to design these skids, especially all this motor and pump assemblies, and we have several partner products which can really make your life easy. We have DriveWorks Express, which is actually a built-in feature of every seat of SolidWorks. It can be standard, professional, or premium, using which you can easily create engineer to order scenarios. You can just create a user interface using which you can input values, the requirements from your customers, and you can spec out these skids like what we did for the storage tank. And here we have a transfer skid. Again, this is quite a detailed design, and I don't want to see all these components coming in. In fact, if we go to Assembly Expert, it's going to show us the number of components. It has got 153 components inside this skid assembly. This will be overhead, but again, I don't want to lose out all this graphical content or information, because I'm going to create a walkthrough later. What I want to do is I want to preserve all this graphical information, and at the same time I want to remove all these components. It almost sounds impossible, but SolidWorks lets me do that by something called as a speed pack. You can create a speed pack, and you can select the geometry which is critical to your assembly level design. We'll be using this flanges, so let me select this flanges and hit OK. And what you'll notice now is SolidWorks has selected all these flanges and has completely removed all these other components from my assembly. You can see as I hover my mouse around this transfer skid assembly, I can only see the flanges. What SolidWorks has done is it's completely removed all these other components out of the memory. So now I can easily bring this in without all the overhead. You can even notice in the feature manager that it has retained, or it has got rid of all the components except for the solid bodies that we have selected. So what I'm going to do now is bring this in, and we can locate it accurately again using the same techniques like the top plane. We want the flanges facing outward, so let me just rotate it. And we're going to create a couple of other mates now. Let's pick the front plane. and the right plane. Or we can even remove, or we might just leave some of the mates out so that it offers us flexibility when we are creating our piping. Finally, what I want to do is I want to use SolidWorks piping to tie all these processes together, especially the water storage system and the demineralized storage tank and the transfer skid. So we need one route which carries water from the storage system to the demineralized storage tank, and another route from demineralized storage tank to transfer skid, which is actually in the a part of the main plant itself. So again, we'll use isolate to just focus on the areas which we are working in. So here we have that water pump skid. So let's start by creating a piping between transfer water pump skid and the demineralized storage tank. We have retained the flange information which is necessary for us to go ahead. Again, SolidWorks piping offers, as I said earlier, unparalleled access in creating your um, piping routes or spools. We can start by dragging and dropping things. Again, we have a lot of standards. SolidWorks offers a lot of tools. You can even download content from 3D Content Central, wherein you will find all the supplier data. And SolidWorks offers a lot of other information like standards. You can download what we have. What I have here is ASME standards. I'll be working on ASME standards for now. What I'm looking for is a flange, a weld neck flange, and as soon as I drag and drop it, I think I'm in the wrong folder. Yeah, as soon as I drag and drop it, I can select the appropriate size, 8-inch flange, 150 pounds. So what SolidWorks does is it automatically mates it, so you don't have to create mates explicitly. SolidWorks smart mating technology places the part in place, and here we can define the route properties. We can go with the defaults, but what I want to do is customize this to a great deal. So I can use customized settings, and I can select the particular type of pipe I'm looking for, ASME, and SolidWorks is intelligent enough to only show me the appropriate or the relevant schedules here. It's showing only all 8-inch pipes because of the flange size, and we can even use a standard length. And next up, we can pick a elbow. We'll pick a 90-degree short radius elbow, and let's go ahead and say OK. We can turn off the routing points, and we're going to do the same thing for the other end. And next up, we can draw lines basically to show the route. I'm going to just bury a couple of pipes, and we can now add all geometric relations like perpendicular relations, etc. And we can see that SolidWorks is giving us a nice preview of the same. And what I want to do is maybe add a dimension. What I want to do is bury this pipe 1 meter underneath the ground. So let me add a dimension between the top plane and the bottom pipe. Let me put it at 1 meter. And we can dimension You can see SolidWorks has added the pipes of standard length. However, we are missing the elbows. I think I picked the wrong document there. My bad. Anyway, let's go ahead and add the second route. And hopefully this time I'll select the right things. A 4-inch flange. We need a 4-inch flange here, so let me just select a 4-inch flange. There you go. Again, I'm going to use some customizing. And this time I don't want to draw a sketch. Instead, what I want to do is auto route the pipe. Let me turn off this routing points. So we are, I think there's some problem. Let me get rid of this. Just hold on a second. I think the system is a little bit slow. Yeah, I think we are right back. Let me pick flange here. Again, we are going to use the same 4-inch. And for the elbow, let's pick 90-degree short radius elbow. This time I'm not going to use the standard length. Let's go ahead and say OK. Turn off the routing points. And okay, there you go. So this time I don't want to use a sketch. What I want to do is instead use the auto routing facility in SolidWorks, using which I can just select the points and SolidWorks will automatically create a route for me. So this can be a very useful feature if you are dealing with complex routes, and even you can have a great control over this. Like if I want, I can add let's say walls. Here I have some walls without flanges, and then I have a complete wall assembly which I'm gonna just drag and drop. Let me say OK, and at this point let me just bring in the wall. So you can see you can place the wall, and you can select the configuration, and you can even dimension this. Let's say we'll have it at a comfortable height from the ground, which is our top plane. Let's put it at 1.2 meters. There you go. SolidWorks has created a beautiful pipe route with the elbows and with the flange. So let's exit and go to the final part of the presentation, which is to create a nice walkthrough. SolidWorks at times, I mean, you have to create nice user presentations, so for which we have walkthroughs. So what I'm going to do now is create a sketch, a simple sketch, and using that sketch, I'm going to move a camera and create a nice video out of it. What I want to do is offset this at a comfortable height, let's say eye level 1.8 meters, which is 6 feet. And using the sketch, I'm going to sketch, using this plane, I'm going to create a simple sketch, a couple of lines. And to make it smoother, to make the transition smoother, we can use option of fit spline. There you go. And in SolidWorks, we can add cameras. So the screen is split into two. The first screen is the camera position and the depth of field, etc., etc. And on the second screen is what actually the camera is looking at. So we can zoom in a little bit, turn on our sketches, and locate our camera. There you go. This is how your camera will be placed, and this is what the camera is currently looking at. We can move this along the spline. Let's say, let's start from 0, and let's start from 1. And in order to prevent the camera from rolling, we can select the face of the property and fix it. And you can see if I zoom out a little bit that the depth of field is way too much. It's going to capture all the information which is up till this rectangle, but we don't need that much of a depth of field. So I'm going to reduce it to 1 meter and quickly change my camera to 35 mm. So we have a lot of camera options as well. Wide angle, telephoto. I'm going to use the standard 35 mm lens, and let me click OK. At any point, you can go to your heads up toolbar and look at the camera view. What I'm going to do is go one step ahead and create a nice walkthrough out of it. Let's stay in the animation, and we can choose the length of the walkthrough. Let me have a 12-second walkthrough. And at this point, what I'm going to do is change the properties at the 12-second mark. And what I'm going to do is just change the values to 199. So let's see how it has turned out. So we can even make this a little bit more interesting at let's say 4-second mark, or let's say 5-second mark. We have our storage tank here. So let's make the person who's carrying the camera just turn around and take a look at the storage tank. So for this, I need to place a key. Let me copy it a couple of times. So at this point, what I'm going to do is change the camera properties. You can see that it's extremely easy creating walkthroughs in SolidWorks. So at this point, what I'm going to do is just change the target selection. I'm going to use some point here. This should do. So let's see how it has edited our walkthrough. So the person is walking along the spline that we have created. At one point, he'll just take a look at the demineralized storage tank and then move on with the rest of the spline. And we can save this as a video. And you can even render it as a video. What I have here is a full video which I have showed you in the beginning of the presentation. So I think we are at the end of the webinar. Let's recap what we have done so far. First, we started off with a 2D drawing, let's say given by a customer, and we used DraftSite, which is a professional grade 2D software given by Dassault Systems, using which we incorporated a design change. We brought in a transfer skid into the layout. We saved it as a DWG file, and then we later opened up the DWG file in SolidWorks, and we started creating the plan design. We almost started from scratch, you can say. Let me go back to the isometric view. And then we incorporated several features like the main plant assembly, which is completely made of weldments and sheet metal components. And then we brought in the cooling unit, the storage system itself, which is a full process by itself. And then we use SolidWorks smart mating to easily locate it by referring to the 2D layout, which exists on the plan. And then we spec'd out a storage tank from scratch, and then we brought it in. And then we tied up all these processes using SolidWorks piping. We even saw how to simplify designs by using configurations in SpeedPack. And later, we finished off the presentation by creating a walkthrough, a nice walkthrough video. So I think that's all I have for now. As you can see, SolidWorks is very user-friendly, and it can really improve your your design cycles, reduce your design times. So if you have any questions, we can open up for Q&A. I think we're right on time. We can have Q&A for another 10-15 minutes. Again, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. All the features and all this presentation was done in SolidWorks Premium, which has got the SolidWorks piping module. So if you are interested in a demonstration, we'll be more than happy to come to your location and do a comprehensive product overview for your team. So please let us know. So if you have any questions, please make sure that you use the chat window or the questions window. Yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention, that we created a pipe. So what we can do is we can quickly create a pipe drawing out of it. Let me show you real quick. So let me turn off some geometry and routing points. So we have a nice pipe here. In using SolidWorks, we can create a pipe drawing automatically out of it. We can choose a appropriate size and bill of materials template. And SolidWorks automatically creates a nice pipe drawing for you, and even a bill of materials with the length of the pipes, etc. And even more, what you can do is for your isogen drawings, you can export this data, export the pipe data as a PCF file, which you can later take it into Alias for your isogen drawings. I saw that's one of the questions one of the customers had. And I assume that all of you are aware of SolidWorks detailing or drawing capabilities. We can create fantastic drawings, like let's say you want to create assembly level drawing. And if you want, you can place isometric view as well. And if you want to dimension this or detail this or create a section view, it's all very easy. Let's say we want a section view here. SolidWorks will automatically hatch all the components for you. And you can even control the depth. Let's say you're not interested in the whole of the section and you want to only look at a particular section. So what we can do is we can give it a section depth. And to detail this drawing, it's very easy. We can start by creating dimensions, and SolidWorks rapid positioning tool will help you place these dimensions accurately. Let's say you are zoomed in and you're creating dimensions. I don't have to worry about where SolidWorks is going to place these dimensions. And SolidWorks has clearly staggered and placed them in a nice fashion. And we can create additional sheets just like what you do in Excel. And then yeah, if I want, I can move the section view into the second sheet. I can change the scale a little bit to make it nice and big. There you go. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type in. I think I'm getting a lot of questions, so let me stop SolidWorks for a while and get your questions. I have one of the questions as what is the system configuration required? I assume you're talking about the hardware. It really depends on how complex your designs are or how simple your designs are. We have, we generally recommend a CAD workstation. It can be Dell or it can be HP. If you just go to Google and type SolidWorks hardware requirements, we have a page on SolidWorks which gives you the minimum hardware requirements. You can say SolidWorks hardware requirements and it will take you to the page actually on SolidWorks website itself, or if you visit Beacon website, we are also hosting a one page which talks about the hardware, the minimum hardware requirements. So we recommend a good CAD workstation with at least 4 GB or 8 GB of RAM and Xeon processors and 1 GB graphics card. Okay. We are going to send out an email to all the attendees and people who have missed out also with a recorded webinar, and you can access this webinar 24/7. I'm going to just bring out my email ID. I'll share it on the screen. You can write us for any information if you are interested in SolidWorks. A one-to-one demonstration at your company for your teams. We will be more than happy to do that. And let me show you where we get all the recorded webinars. You can go to Beacon website. Actually, I mean, if you have registered for the webinars, you'll get a link to access the recorded webinars. But if you want to do it from a website, you can just go to Beacon and Beacon website and then we have a page for training webinars, wherein we have all the webinars which we have done, and you can click on the particular webinar and then it will take you to the recorded webinars. Or we have a separate page for recorded webinars and webinar documents, which is all the PPTs and PDFs that we do. I think we are right on time. It's 12:01, so we'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining. We really appreciate your time. And we have an event coming up in Pune, which I was told to talk about. So let me just bring that onto the screen. We have a technology day happening in Pune for those folks who are joining in from Pune. You can definitely attend this event. It's on 10th July. It's a technology day. We call it technology day, and here on my screen I have the agenda put up. If you want to know more about this, just write to us or call Ms. Amreen at the number displayed on the screen. This is happening in Chakan for Pune. We'll be doing events like this in Bangalore, Delhi, etc. So keep joining us for the webinars, and we'll make sure that you are aware of all these events. I have a question regarding simulation in case of plant design. That again really depends on the case. Usually, SolidWorks has excellent design validation capabilities in the form of SolidWorks Simulation Express, which can handle part level structural analysis as well as structural static analysis. And we have dedicated products like SolidWorks Simulation Professional, SolidWorks Premium, SolidWorks Simulation Premium, Flow Simulation. All this can handle complex design validation scenarios. I have a question on the quality of the walkthrough on complete plan design. I just played. I mean, you have settings wherein you can. Let me just go back to the SolidWorks window. You can save it as a high resolution video. We don't generally compromise on quality. So when you're saving it as a video, you get a lot of options. You can choose the FPS as well as the image size and aspect ratios. And even better, you can use Photo View 360 to render the whole video. It's going to take a little bit of time because it is a resource hungry process, but it can definitely create a very nice impact making presentation of your plant and processes. So this in fact is a rendered video. So a video like this, it can be at a very high resolution, and then you can use Photo View 360 to render it. Yes, it does depend on the file size. The quality of the walkthrough will, you can say it's directly proportional to the file size. Yeah, we can definitely. I have a question on the number of cameras that you can use. You can use more than one camera. There is no, and we can place multiple cameras. You can use multiple cameras and you can toggle between the different cameras at different points of your walkthrough, if that's what you're referring to. I don't have any sample of that, but you can look up in online. You will get tons of videos wherein people have uploaded walkthroughs of their plants and processes, especially on YouTube. Okay, I think we have. I think we'll be wrapping it up now. It's Thanks for attending, and we appreciate your time. The next webinar is going to be on 3D via Composer, a technical documentation solution from Dassault Systems. And if you have any other ideas for, or if you want any particular topic to be done as a webinar, please let us know. Let me bring on my contact details. You can write to us at pradeep@beacon-india.com, and we'll make sure that we'll get back to you. Thank you very much. I have one more question on the walkthroughs. This is just not limited to plant design. You can You can create a walkthrough in any SolidWorks assembly.